On a cold October night in ancient Ireland, darkness fell heavy across the hills. Villagers climbed the slopes, clutching torches, their faces pale in the firelight. They believed this was no ordinary night. It was the one evening when the boundary between the living and the dead could be crossed. Spirits drifted among them, some carrying messages from lost loved ones, others seeking mischief or revenge. The flames were their protection. Without fire, the night belonged to the dead. The Celts called this festival Samhain, a turning of the year. It was the moment when summer died, when fields lay barren, and the cold season of hunger began. To them, Samhain was not just the change of weather, it was a doorway. The living stood on one side, the dead on the other. And tonight, the door swung open. Families huddled together, whispering prayers that their ancestors would visit, and that darker beings would pass them by. The Celts feared the thin veil between worlds. They spoke of ghosts returning to their homes, of fairies stealing children into the night, of restless souls wandering the hills. On this night, crops could spoil, cattle could vanish, and sickness could spread, all blamed on spirits crossing freely into the human realm. And so, families stayed close, fires burning bright, daring not to walk alone after dark. Druid priests, the keepers of Celtic tradition, took command of the night. They built towering bonfires, sparks leaping into the black sky. These flames were more than light, they were protection, an offering to gods, and a beacon for the spirits of the dead. Villagers threw grains and livestock into the fire, a sacrifice to win safety and blessings through the harsh winter. For the Celts, survival depended not just on strength, but on pleasing forces unseen. Masks and disguises played their part. To avoid being recognized by angry spirits, people covered their faces in animal skins or crude masks. They believed that if the dead could not tell who was mortal and who was spirit, they would move on, leaving the living unharmed. In the flickering glow, humans and ghosts blurred together, a dance of fear and reverence. Crops and animals fed the fires through the night. Smoke rose like prayers into the heavens. The people gave what they could spare, believing it better to lose a harvest to flame than to anger spirits that might destroy the entire village. These offerings were not small gestures. They were lifelines, traded for survival. In the eyes of the Celts, Samhain was not a celebration. It was a negotiation with death itself. Then came Rome. Their legions conquered the Celtic lands, bringing with them their own gods, festivals, and traditions. The two worlds collided. Samhain did not disappear, it adapted. Roman ceremonies honoring the dead fused with Celtic belief, creating a patchwork night of remembrance and fear. The fires still burned, but now they carried echoes of both cultures. The Romans celebrated Feralia, a day to honor and appease the souls of the departed. Families laid offerings on graves, asking for peace and favor. For conquered Celts, this mirrored their own Samhain rituals. Slowly, the two traditions blended. The dead were honored, the living sought protection, and autumn became forever tied to remembrance and shadows. Another Roman goddess left her mark, Pomona, the spirit of fruit and orchards. Her symbol was the apple. When her festival merged with Samhain, apples became part of the season. Generations later, they would appear in games of chance, bobbing for apples, twisting apple stems, traditions carrying whispers of Pomona long after her worship ended. But centuries later, the Church rose to power. Determined to stamp out pagan practices, it rebranded the night. In the 7th century, Pope Boniface dedicated November 1st as All Saints' Day, a day to honor Christian martyrs. Pagan fires became holy candles. Druids became priests. Yet the night before carried too much weight to erase. It was renamed All Hallows' Eve. Over time, the word would slur and shorten into Halloween. Though the church tried to sanctify the night, superstition only grew stronger. The people still feared what lingered in the dark. If saints were to be celebrated on November 1st, then surely demons, witches, and spirits would claim the night before. And so, Halloween became a stage for both holy remembrance and unholy fear. Medieval Europe painted witches as servants of the devil, flying by night and cursing crops. Halloween became tied to them, the old festival now seen as a time when dark powers roamed freely. Ordinary women, healers, widows, outsiders, became targets of fear. Accusations spread like wildfire. For many, Halloween was not fun. It was dangerous. Black cats, once symbols of protection, were demonized as companions of witches. To cross one's path was to invite bad luck, or worse, a curse. Every flicker of shadow on Halloween became a potential threat. The line between myth and fear grew thinner than ever. Irish folklore told of Stingy Jack, a trickster who outsmarted the devil himself. Denied both heaven and hell, Jack was doomed to wander the earth with only a carved turnip lantern to light his path. He became the wandering spirit of Halloween, and from him, the jack-o'-lantern was born. Families carved their own lanterns, grotesque faces carved into turnips, candles glowing inside. They placed them on doorsteps to frighten away Jack and any other wandering spirit. These eerie faces flickering in the dark became one of Halloween's most lasting symbols. In the 1800s, waves of Irish immigrants crossed the ocean to America. They brought their stories, their fears, and their traditions. On American soil, Halloween would transform yet again. Turnips were scarce in America, but pumpkins were plentiful, and far easier to carve. Their bright orange glow transformed the jack-o'-lantern into a new form. No longer grim turnips, but great pumpkins glowing like miniature bonfires. A Celtic symbol reborn in the New World. At first, Halloween in America was chaotic. By the late 1800s, it became a night of pranks. Young people overturned wagons, soaped windows, and filled streets with mischief. For towns already uneasy with the holiday's pagan roots, Halloween was now feared for disorder as much as for spirits. The pranks grew wilder. Farmers woke to broken gates and missing livestock. Shopkeepers found their signs stolen or smashed. Police dreaded the night, knowing it would bring destruction. For many Americans, Halloween became less a festival and more a nuisance. Something had to change. Communities began reshaping Halloween. Civic leaders pushed for parades, parties, and gatherings to channel the energy away from mischief. The focus shifted toward children, families, and safety. Slowly, Halloween shed its wild edges. By the 1930s, a new tradition took hold: trick-or-treating. Instead of vandalism, children in costumes went door to door asking for sweets. The offer was simple: give a treat, or expect a trick. It was playful, safe, and wildly popular. The costumes of those early years were crude and unsettling. Papier-mâché masks with hollow eyes. Homemade ghost sheets and stitched together cloaks. They had a strange, eerie quality, innocence laced with something darker. By the 1950s, candy companies saw opportunity. Apples and nuts once handed out at doors were replaced by chocolate and sugar. Advertisements pushed sweets as the heart of Halloween. A new empire was born. Costumes grew elaborate. Children now dressed as vampires, skeletons, werewolves, and ghouls, the embodiment of the very creatures their ancestors had feared. Halloween had become a masquerade of the dead. Across suburban streets, glowing pumpkins lined porches. Children paraded door to door under watchful moons. The night was festive, but beneath the laughter still lingered echoes of fire, shadow, and fear. In 1978, Halloween collided with cinema. A low-budget horror film introduced Michael Myers, a masked killer who stalked October nights. The movie Halloween turned the holiday into the ultimate stage for terror. Soon followed Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and an entire generation of slashers. Each villain cemented Halloween as more than candy, it became pop culture's darkest playground. Televisions glowed with late-night horror. Stores filled with rubber masks and plastic knives. Halloween became an industry of fear, feeding on centuries-old tradition and modern appetite for thrills. Today, Halloween is worth billions. Candy sales, costumes, haunted attractions, the holiday has grown into one of the largest commercial celebrations on Earth. Haunted houses and theme parks thrive on the season. Crowds pay to be terrified, echoing the same thrills villagers once felt in the flicker of firelight. Fear, once survival, now entertainment. Halloween has spread beyond America. From Japan to Brazil, cities like pumpkins, children wear costumes, and ancient Celtic whispers drift across the world. What began on Irish hillsides has become a global night of shadows. But no matter how modern the holiday becomes, the old roots remain. When children carve pumpkins, they echo Jack of the Lantern. When masks are worn, they echo druids hiding from spirits. The past never truly dies. Each costume carries an echo of the old disguises. Behind painted faces and plastic masks lies the ancient fear of being recognized by the dead. The tradition continues, disguised as play. Each jack-o'-lantern is a miniature bonfire. Its light flickers against the dark, just as it did for the Celts who prayed for safety from hungry spirits. Modern candles, ancient prayers. Even today, whispers linger. People say the air feels different on Halloween night. The veil thinner. Shadows longer. Eyes watching from the edges of the dark. Halloween remains a threshold. Between harvest and winter. Between light and shadow. Between the safety of day and the fear of night. A line walked every year. For one night, the world pauses. Adults remember old fears. Children embrace the thrill of the unknown. Together, they reenact a ritual older than nations, older than history itself. The laughter of children mixes with whispers of ghosts. Each door knocked echoes the old bargains, food offered, spirits appeased. Candy is new. The tradition is not. Masks smile widely, too widely. Behind them, it feels as though something else smiles back. The line between costume and spirit blurs, just as it once did at Samhain. As night deepens, the streets empty, but pumpkins glow. Their light watches over houses as if keeping something outside. Or perhaps, keeping something in. Old spirits live on, reborn in costumes and rituals. Halloween is less a reinvention. More a survival. A holiday where the past refuses to vanish. At its core, Halloween asks the same question as Samhain: what if the dead do not stay dead? What if they walk among us, just for one night? From Celtic bonfires to American suburbs, Halloween is a chain unbroken. A night when ancient ritual walks hand in hand with modern play. It is the one night where darkness is celebrated. Where shadows are embraced. Where fear is not avoided, but welcomed at the door. Halloween endures. Not only as candy and costumes, but as memory. A whisper from the past. A reminder that the shadows never truly leave us. They only wait. Don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the bell.